Hello friends, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm often asked by the women in my makeup techniques classes that are for women over 50 if it really matters what makeup brush they use. And my answer is always a resounding yes, it really does matter. And I say that because using the right makeup brush can not only help us achieve a more beautiful and professional look, but it can also make our makeup application far easier and faster as well. So today I'm excited to share with you some tips and some demonstrations on how to use the right makeup brushes to achieve beautiful professional results. And the good news is that there are a lot of lower price makeup brushes that really work quite well, and we'll definitely talk about some of these toward the end of this video, so stay tuned. As you can see, I have all of my makeup on this side of my face, and I've only put my foundation on this side of my face. So along the way, I'll do some demonstrations on what brushes work really wonderfully for our eyes, as well as the brushes that can work well for applying blush and contour and highlight. If you're new to my channel, my name is Elise and I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you. I'm a professional working makeup artist who's passionate about helping women over 50 get their glow back so they can look and feel their confident best. Every Thursday, you'll find a new video on my channel, and I do hope you'll join our wonderful family of subscribers by clicking on that red subscribe button. And if you also hit the bell icon below the video and to the right, you'll automatically be notified each time a new video is up and available. And I thank you so much in advance if you choose to do so. So let's talk makeup brushes. There are 4 important ways that makeup brushes can differ, and these differences are what can help us decide which brush to use where and for what to get the very best results. So first, let me share the 4 ways that brushes can differ, and then I'll do some demonstrations on what types of brushes are best for what type of makeup application. The first way that brushes can differ is what the bristles are actually made out of. The second way they can differ is in the length of the bristles. The third way is in the density of the bristles. And number 4, the brushes can differ in their shape. All of these factors play a really important role in how the brush applies makeup, and using the right brush can really improve our makeup skills. In addition to these 4 ways that brushes can differ, there are also 2 brush application techniques that can make a difference in how the products actually apply. First, how we hold the brush can make a difference. And secondly, what type of motion we use with the brush when we apply the product can also make a difference. So let's first talk about each of the 4 ways that brushes can differ and which types of brushes are best to be used for what type of application based on these differences. So brushes can first differ in the types of bristles, as I mentioned earlier. Natural hair bristle brushes are made from various animals, including squirrel, mink, sable, horse, and even goats. Over the last few years, natural hair bristle brushes have lost quite a bit of favor due to the cruelty-free movement in makeup. Brushes can also be made from synthetic fibers, and fortunately, these fibers have improved quite a bit in the last few years. Each of these 2 types of brushes has pros and cons, as you might imagine, and because the hair in natural bristle brushes has a cuticle, these brushes absorb more product. And since these are more porous, they also tend to pick up and deposit powder better than synthetic brushes. But this also means they absorb more product and therefore use up product more quickly. Synthetic brushes don't pick up and absorb as much product, so they're best to use with liquid and cream products. Synthetic brushes are also easier to keep clean and sanitary. Next, let's talk about the second way brushes differ in the length of the bristles. I'll show you a shorter bristle brush and a longer bristle brush. This is a shorter bristle brush, and this is a longer bristle brush. A longer, softer, fluffier brush, as the one I showed you, picks up less product and therefore applies less product, so the application will look softer and more diffused. On a brush with shorter bristles, the bristles are less flexible and not as soft, so they'll pick up more product and apply it in a more concentrated way. So this particular kind of brush, which is more flexible, is great, for instance, for applying product in the crease area because it's a softer application. You haven't picked up as much product on your brush, and it really diffuses the product more easily. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my crease area eyeshadow with this particular kind of brush. And let me tell you what particular eyeshadow I'm using. This is an amazing palette of colors, as you can see. They're all matte. This is made by Viseart, which is a very high-end makeup brand. And I have to say that I hadn't used this palette for quite a while, until just the last few days. I had forgotten how amazing it is. It probably goes on easier than any other eyeshadow I have ever used, and it blends so beautifully, and the pigmentation is fantastic. So though this one is particularly pricey, they do make smaller palettes where you can get fewer shades of eyeshadow. And they've come out a lot more in recent months with many of those types of palettes. They also have a neutral all matte eyeshadow palette in 12 colors, which is a fantastic way to dip your toe into this particular brand. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this brand because I've just been so bowled over by it recently as I've tried it again. I'm going to use the colors from the bottom row on this particular eyeshadow palette from Viseart. This is their Grand Pro 1. I'm going to start with those two medium colors that are sort of blue-grays. Then I'm going to go into the deepest blue color, and I'll also add some of that lighter white mixed with the lightest gray color on my lid area. So I'm applying this medium color in the lid area, and I'm going all the way out across. So I'm lifting that lid area. And by the way, as you can look at both eyes, one with the makeup and one without the makeup, I think you can see how much bigger my eyes look with the eye makeup on. I have very small eyes, and so using the eyeshadow to lift my eyes really makes a difference. Now, as you can see, using this soft, flexible brush, I can really diffuse the color, and I don't have a heavy application of color. And then as I've used up that color, mostly, I can diffuse it even further by taking it up to the eyebrow area. There's very little bit left on my brush, so that can work very well for blending, so I don't have any harsh edges. Next, I'm going to take a much denser, thicker brush, and I'm going to use this to apply the dark blue shadow. I'm actually going to mix it with the darkest gray, so I have a combination of dark gray and blue. I'm going to first deposit it, and that's what's wonderful about a thicker brush like this. I can apply a lot of product in a more concentrated way with this thicker, denser brush. So as you can see, I was able to apply a lot of product far more quickly using this denser brush. Then I'm going to use a softer blending brush, which you can see the bristles are very flexible. This helps diffuse the product as I blend. And I'm going to just blend this color in, both toward the inner part of the eyelid and up and toward the inner part of the crease as well. And so you can see what a difference it makes to blend. Now that color is far softer looking. I'm going to take a second blending brush, which is a little larger, which doesn't have any product on it at all, and I can use that to really diffuse the color so that there are no harsh edges. I'm going to take this thicker bristle brush and denser brush to apply more product now across the lid area faster. What's wonderful about having a white in an eyeshadow palette is obviously you can lighten up a lot of the colors, as you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more of that deeper blue color so it matches the other eye. And then once again I'll blend. Now these eyes aren't quite the same because I have another color I'm going to add in here, but I'm going to have to use a very different kind of brush for that. The third difference is in brush density. More densely packed brushes have shorter fibers that don't bend as easily, and the bristles don't have as much movement as less densely packed brushes. They're better for picking up and applying a larger amount of product, as I just did with the eyeshadow in the deeper color. They don't blend out makeup as easily as longer, less densely packed brushes. It's important to have both kinds of these brushes so you can more quickly and easily apply more product with a denser brush and can apply product in a lighter, sheerer way with a less densely packed brush. Let me give you another example of a densely packed brush. This foundation brush is extremely densely packed. It's also very soft. Because it's so densely packed, there's not a lot of movement here. And that's exactly what you want, because you want your foundation to really buff right into the skin. That's why this is called a buffing brush, and it really helps meld the makeup product, in this case foundation, into the skin beautifully. If you had a softer brush that had more flexibility to it, it really wouldn't do the same kind of job nearly as quickly or as effectively. So because of the dense bristles, a foundation buffing brush like the one I just used will really gently push the foundation into the skin so it looks natural and flawless. And the fourth difference is the shape of the brush. Let me show you a couple of examples. This brush has an angled top. This is a sculpting brush from Real Techniques. As you can see, I've already used it on one side of my face to apply a contour. And that's why the shape is so important, because where I want contour is under that cheekbone area. And so having an angle like this really helps apply that product more effectively. It's also nice to have an angled brush for foundation application, because as you can see, the shape of this brush, as well as the fact that it has densely packed bristles, really makes a difference in how I can apply the product and how easily I can apply the product to different areas of my face where there are angles. Let me also show you another shaped brush. This is a flat top brush, which can be very effective in creating very thin lines. For instance, along the outer edge for bottom eyeshadow application as eyeliner. It can also work very effectively along the top of the lid area, and because it's fairly wide, I can apply quite a bit of product at one time. It's a very different brush from this particular brush, which is a very large domed powder brush. It is very soft. It moves product very easily and over a large area because of the size. And it's also very densely packed. But in this case, it's very flexible. What this can do is cover a lot of territory very fast. If you want to apply powder in just strategic areas of your face, this brush would not be a good choice, because this is going to get a lot of powder over a lot of area very quickly. Now, I do want to get a lot of powder over my forehead area quickly and down on my nose, so I will use this brush for that. Another different shape for a brush is what's called a pencil brush. This can work very well for detailed application. And it's obvious why it's called a pencil brush, because of the shape. So I'm going to now finish up the eyeshadow look with this brush. I'm going to go into this palette and use that orange color in the third row down, believe it or not. I used blue in this part of the eye, and orange is actually a complementary to blue. Now, I could have stayed monochromatic and used all blue going dark to light, but I really want to bump up the look of the eyeshadow, and to give it that little extra pop, using a complementary color can work well. But I only want it in a very precise area of my eye. That's why I'm going to use this pencil brush. So I'm going to just apply this orange right here at the beginning and just on the very top edge of this other eyeshadow. And then I'm going to take my blending brush and really blend that in thoroughly. So I really don't want it to be obvious that there's orange there. I just want a little taste of that color just to make that eyeshadow look a little bit more interesting and give it some pop. I think you can see what a difference that makes, just adding that little bit. Now I'm also going to take that flat top brush that I showed earlier, and I'm going to use that to apply my eyeliner. Use that flat top brush to simply go all the way across that eye area. I start in the middle when I have the most product on my brush, and then when I have less product on my brush, I go toward the inner corner. I'm now going to take a slightly lighter color in the beige brown area, and I'm going to do just the outer third along my bottom eyelash area. and I will do my mascara off camera. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply the contouring cream with the angled brush that I showed earlier. I'm applying the two darkest colors from this contour kit made by Cover FX, and I'm going to use that to apply my contour. So I first picked up the color with my contour brush by rubbing it across the contour cream I'd put on the back of my hand. Then I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I like to start at the top under my cheekbone where I want the most color, and then gradually fade it down. So what I'm doing is just creating a very soft contour with this color, just to give my face a little bit more dimension. I'm also going to apply it under my jawline and on the outer corner of my forehead. And then to make sure everything is blended in very well, I'm taking my foundation brush, which still has a little product on it, and going along the edge of all the areas where I contoured, just so it all really blends in nicely. I'm also going to do the same thing with my blush. This is the blush I'm using. It's from Ilia. It's called At Last. This is the color. And I'm going to take a little bit different kind of brush. This has a little bit more flexible bristles, but it is also angled, which I think really helps. And I'm going to absorb that blush with the brush on the back of my hand. And then I'm going to apply this to the middle part of my cheekbone, just to give me a little bit of flush. This is a nice soft brush, so it applies easily over that cheek area. I'm also going to put a little bit of cream highlighter, and I'm just going to use my fingers for this because I'm putting it just in a very small area on the top part of my cheekbone. Now let's talk about the two different brush application techniques that can make a difference in how our makeup looks. First, where and how we hold the brush can make a huge difference. If we hold the brush toward the brush end, we'll have more control and probably apply a greater amount of product. By holding the brush toward the end of the brush, we'll exert less pressure and apply less makeup for a softer, more diffused look. Let me show you an example of holding the brush in different areas. If I hold this Morphe brush at the end, I would have a larger range of motion with the brush. I'm holding it looser, which also means that I would apply less product because I'm not exerting as much pressure with this kind of hold on the brush. If, however, I hold it closer to the brush end, as you can see, I have less movement of the brush, which means the application of the color is going to be a little bit more intense, and I also have more precise control over the brush this way. The type of movement we make with the brush is the second important factor in how our makeup looks. If we press or stamp a product such as eyeshadow onto our lid, we'll get more color payoff and a stronger look. If we use a windshield wiper motion or a small circular motion, we create a more diffused, softer look. So for instance, if I use this brush to blend, and I use this kind of stroke, which is a windshield wiper motion, I will diffuse the shadow in this part of my eye. Also, if I use a circular motion like this, I'm also diffusing the shadow. But what I'm doing in addition is that I'm making sure to catch all the skin in this area and cover it with color. Because I have a lot of texture in this area, if I just use the windshield wiper motion, I could miss covering up some of my skin with the eyeshadow color. And it's also important to remember that you don't necessarily have to use a brush for what it's intended for. For instance, I have a dual-ended shadow brush from Eve Pearl, and I love to use the angled side of it to contour the side of my nose. Let me show you what I mean. This is actually meant to be an eyeshadow brush. It works really well in the crease area, but because of the size of it, it really also works well going down the side of my nose. So I'm going to take a little bit of that contour cream that I used earlier for under my cheekbones and under my jawline. I'm going to take just a little bit of it, and I'm going to just dot it along the side of my nose, and then I'm going to use this brush to blend it in. It's the perfect size. And as I mentioned earlier, I also have a flat, dense brush that's labeled as a concealer brush, but I love to use it to stamp on my outer V eyeshadow color. As I mentioned in the beginning of today's video, there are definitely some makeup brushes that are less expensive that will do a fabulous job. So I'd like to share with you some of the ones that I have in my collection from e.l.f., Morphe, and Real Techniques. This is one of my favorite e.l.f. brushes. This is a bent eyeliner brush or an angled eyeliner brush, and you may have seen me use this in some of my other videos. What this works wonderfully for is applying eyeliner very close to the lashes. And you can also actually dot eyeliner between the lashes. This kind of brush really helps those of us with hooded eyes, since we often don't have a whole lot of lid area to work with. These are some of my favorite Morphe brushes. These two are a little bit more densely packed, which means I can get more precise application. They're also pointed at the end, so I can get precise application that way. This particular one on the bottom is a blending brush, and they have several different sizes of blending brushes, and these work very well. The sculpting brush that I used for my contour was Real Techniques, and I also want to share a couple of other Real Techniques brushes with you. These are really a couple of very interesting eye brushes from Real Techniques. They're called Instapop brushes, and they come together, but what's wonderful about them is they're densely packed, as you can see, and they're angled. And what's lovely about that is you can certainly use them right here in the crease to really pack on color at the outer edge. But if you flip it around so the angled part is up, it also helps spread that color out from that outer V area. It really fits into that eye socket area very well. The other brush is just a little bit smaller version of that one. It's also angled and again works wonderfully in that eye area for even more detailed work. And by the way, I've listed all of these brushes in the description box below the video. Other less expensive brushes that make great brushes also are from BH Cosmetics, ColourPop, EcoTools, and Sonia Kashuk. But be aware that some of the less expensive brands produce brushes that will work well, but you will definitely notice a difference in the quality of the materials of some of these brands. For instance, I've had several e.l.f. brushes where the paint has come off the handles or the brush end has loosened a bit, so the brush is a bit wobbly. However, I will say that I've never had a problem with any of my Real Techniques brushes. I do, however, wish that Real Techniques had a greater variety of brush shapes, such as pencil brushes and flat top brushes. But one of the things I really like about the Real Techniques brushes is that the handles seem easier to grip than many other brands. In fact, last holiday season, I remember browsing through Target and being very tempted to purchase a Sonia Kashuk brush set that was on sale for a wonderful price, and I was about to put it in my cart when I realized that the brush handles were a beautiful rose gold color, but they were also metal. Then it dawned on me how slippery and difficult to hold those all-metal handles would be, so I reluctantly put the brushes back on the shelf. Some of the more expensive brands of brushes that many people love include IT Cosmetics, Sigma, BK Beauty, Zoeva brushes, and a beautiful line of brushes from makeup artist Wayne Goss. I also love the brushes from two other makeup artists, Robert Jones and Eve Pearl. And I have to admit that I have a few Sigma brushes and IT Cosmetics brushes that are definitely on my wish list. I hope these tips were helpful, and if so, I would so appreciate it if you'd give this video a thumbs up. And if you have a friend or family member that you feel might also like to learn more about how different kinds of makeup brushes can really help with makeup application, I hope you'll feel free to share this video with them. And I'd love to hear in the comments section below what your favorite makeup brushes are, the ones you always reach for, and what brushes are on your wish list. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. I hope it inspired you to perhaps check out a few different kinds of brushes that might make your makeup application both easier and faster. And I also hope that you stay happy and healthy and have a fabulous rest of your day. Take care.